everybody, I'm Delicia. Thanks for tuning into the CIGARVIXEN channel. So today I have a very special cigar to review, and hopefully you guys have one at home in your humidor that you can light up alongside with me here for this review. Today I'm going to be smoking the Casa Magna Colorado, made by Quesada cigars. And this is coming straight out of the Plasencia factory on this one. So there's a interesting little story about how this blend and the name itself came about. I was actually privileged enough to have a little conversation with Mr. Quesada about this cigar and kind of getting a little bit of the behind the scenes details about it. This cigar has been around for quite some time. In fact, it launched originally in 2007. So you guys have probably become familiar with this in your local brick and mortars. This is a cigar that is easily found. It's another one of those cigars that you can find in a variety of humidors. You can find online. So it's easy to be able to add this beautiful cigar to your humidors. So the Casa Magna is a Nicaraguan puro. It is one that, as I mentioned, is made in the Plasencia factory, blended by Mr. Quesada. And the story with this one is kind of funny. So originally, the Quesada family had a relationship with a different Nicaraguan brand that they represented. They did distribution for back in the late 90s through the early 2000s. And apparently, right around 2007, that relationship ended. And within about 2 days of receiving that phone call, Mr. Quesada was on an airplane to Nicaragua. In fact, the phone call came in on a Friday. He was on a plane on Sunday on his way to Nicaragua, and on Monday morning had a meeting with the Plasencia family, with Nestor Sr. and Jr., to create his own Nicaraguan blend for his portfolio. So kind of funny in that regards that the Plasencia family is one that's also been around for quite some time. They're very well known in the tobacco industry. They grow some fantastic tobacco. And so what a nice opportunity for the two of them to come together and create a beautiful cigar that would go on to win some pretty amazing awards, but we'll get to that shortly. So he sat down, did they had their meeting, they tested different blends and kind of came up with what he was looking for, knew exactly what he wanted, had them ready to go, said, okay, I want this blend in 4 vitolas. And they're like, okay, great. So what's the name and what kind of packaging or logo? What do you have going on? He's like, I don't know yet. I'll get back to you. So go ahead and just start blending it. Make me those 4 vitolas. I want this many. Blah blah blah. That whole thing. And then a little bit of time went by, and apparently Mr. Quesada was in Puerto Vallarta at a cigar convention. And he was supposed to have a meeting with his national sales rep that was there with him. They were going to sit down and look at some different names for this cigar that still at that point had no name. This is March, and the cigar was set to launch and be ready to go in, I believe it was June or July. So just a couple months, and still didn't have a name, still didn't have a logo, didn't have packaging, things like that. So he had that meeting set up, and he had a list of I think he said about 60 or 70 names to go over as possible names for what would be the Casa Magna. So he was sitting there, he had this long list, and he didn't say it, but I'm imagining the atmosphere, sitting in Puerto Vallarta. He probably had a little cocktail, probably was smoking this cigar, and was like, okay, let's get the name thing going. Well, he's looking at this list, and then to the other side of him was either a napkin or a pad of paper from the hotel. And turns out that the hotel's name was something like, Puerto Vallarta Hotel Casa Magna. And he's like, boom, that's it. Looked at the thing, said, yes, I like the name. Let's go with Casa Magna. Got on the phone, started making sure that the name was available. By the time his sales rep came down, he was like, oh, I'm good. I already have the name picked out. Don't worry about it. So kind of funny how that works out. It reminded me of something that you would see on an episode of like Mad Men. If you guys watch that show at all, those guys are always sitting at either like a bar or something, and they have some creative spark that's like, yes, that's it, and then the rest is history. So, but this cigar itself, as I mentioned, it's been around for a little bit. It is one that it came out, as I mentioned, in the summer of 2007, and by January of 2008, had won the Cigar of the Year, #1 cigar from Cigar Aficionado. So pretty impressive. It's a great little smoke. It does have a couple different vitolas that it's offered in. Today I'm going to be smoking this 4 3/4 by 60. This is the torito, so the little bowl in this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Casa Magna Colorado. I love the wrapper on this. It's seamless. I mean, it's beautiful. There's not a lot of noticeable veins. It's very flawless and really pretty to look at. The band itself is very ornate. It has just enough pop to get your attention without being overdone. It's very classy and just has a lot of that beautiful gold type of adornment on it. And on the side of it, it has the nice kind of tobacco leaf plant. That's what it looks like anyways, the tobacco leaf plant, and just simple, to the point, elegant, classy. I love when the cigar that you're smoking, right away, the first puff, it just greets you with this very beautiful hello, welcome. It's that nice, welcoming aroma, but welcoming flavors, right on your palate. Beautiful billowing smoke. I don't know if that's captured on the camera, but nice amount of smoke output. As I mentioned, that aroma, very welcoming. There's a sweetness to it. Initially, the first couple puffs, you get a mixture of a little background of a spice. It's very subtle. It's kind of a combination of what starts out as a cinnamon. There's a subtle sweetness to it, and then afterwards kind of develops into just a little bit of a black pepper. Again, fairly subtle on that initial spice that it's offering, and then there's a little bit of sweetness mixed in. So little notes of kind of a dusted cocoa. Again, not terribly sweet, just a little nuance of that sweetness and a little bit of that spice to kind of get you started off right. And then again, just that beautiful aroma. This has a type of aroma that if you were sitting somewhere like out near a beach, and even a non-cigar smoker that was walking by would capture that aroma and be attracted to it. It has that type of aroma. It's just beautiful. Still has a little bit of that, again, subtle spice, subtle sweetness, little hints of leather. Somewhat subtle. All of those notes that I mentioned are fairly subtle. I can feel the spice starting to ramp up a little bit more just within, again, those few initial first puffs, but very nice. So the Quesadas are a family that they've been making cigars since the mid-70s. And they're just a wonderful family. He has a great team behind him, including his one of his daughters that is just gorgeous. You can't miss her on Instagram. So I'm hoping to get a chance to do maybe an Instagram live with Raquel Quesada and talk to her about cigars, maybe smoke a cigar with her on Instagram, and invite you guys to tune in. I know I've done a couple of those, and you guys have seemed to really, respond well to that and like that kind of interaction and that engagement. So I'm hoping to do that. Fingers crossed I can get her to get on Instagram with me and do some sort of a little, not an interview, but just kind of like talking shop, if you will, smoking cigars and talking a little bit more about their brand. So again, just a beautiful, beautiful cigar to kick things off. I'm going to go ahead and smoke this down a little bit more, of course, and check back in right around the halfway point to talk about any flavors. So coming back in on about the halfway point on this Casa Magna, and I had a beautiful ash. Almost the entire length of the cigar was all ash. I should have turned on the camera sooner. Never fails that I try to get a little bit more out of it to hit that halfway point, and I lost the ash. So sorry, you have to gonna take my word for it that it had a beautiful ash on it. The construction on this is wonderful. The draw is, you know, perfect, effortless draw. And one of the things that I've noticed about this cigar is that over the years I have smoked this. I've gone through, you know, different rotations in my humidor, and this has always been in the mix. And it's consistent every time. It's the same flavor notes. I compare notes. I do keep a cigar journal, so I tend to compare notes from over the years, like different cigars that I've smoked. And every time I go back to smoking this particular cigar, it's exactly the same flavor notes that I get every time. Same smoking experience. So it's nice to have that consistency. In fact, it's funny because when I get a chance to talk to different manufacturers, I ask them, you know, usually the same kind of questions. And one of the questions I always ask is, you know, what's something that if you were in front of, you know, an audience of people, like what's the main thing that you would want, what's the message you'd want to get across about your cigars to the people that are smoking it? And Mr. Quesada answered that, and he said, you know, quality, consistency with the blending. Those are like his main things that he would want to make sure that not only is he capturing when he's making the cigars, but that people, you know, respond to that and know about it. And that's definitely something that every time I smoke one of their cigars, it's the same. That consistency is there each and every time, which is something that, I mean, you don't keep a brand going for that many years without it. So definitely stands out, especially on this, again, once, you know, smoking the Casa Magna Colorado again. Beautiful cigar. Flavor notes right now, I actually hit that sweet spot a few puffs back. The flavor notes are beautiful. You still get those same initial types of flavors that I mentioned in the beginning. So you're picking up little hints of the cocoa. It's turned a little bit sweeter, just a little tiny bit more of a chocolate flavor has come into play, kind of a milk chocolate versus that dark chocolate. Has a little bit more sweetness to it. There's that hint of the spice that kind of goes in and out. Nice leather amounts in there, as well as a little bit of citrus that's come into it. So citrus, and I even pick up a background of kind of a subtle plum. So again, a little bit of the fruity notes, very subtle, nice amount of the spice that's just the right amount. It's in the back seat, so you can get a little bit of it without it being overly spicy. It's a beautiful blend. I mean, it's just, again, consistent. It's super consistent, very balanced, and yeah, just a wonderful smoking experience. It's good for, I would say, any time of the day. You could do this in the morning with coffee. You could also do it in the evening, you know, with a nice scotch or something. It's a beautiful, any time of day, nice medium-bodied cigar. So I'm gonna smoke it down a little bit more and check back in for one last final notation to see if there's any changes that come into play. All right, so coming back in for the final little bit here on the Casa Magna Colorado. Beautiful cigar. Flavor notes haven't changed a whole lot. It's a fairly, it's definitely balanced and complex, but there's not a lot of different shifts in the overall, like in the first and second thirds going through. It's a mouthful of billowing smoke, and it's super flavorful. It has, again, just those same consistent nuances of the cocoa. You get a little bit of the cinnamon, a little bit of a black pepper kind of mixed together. Cedar is kind of underlying towards this last little bit. That's been the only addition of anything else that I picked up. Leather is there, and then a little bit of the fruity. So a little hint of citrus, little bit of a plum raisin nuance, just kind of subtle in the background, but just a wonderful smoke. I mean, I actually like this vitola. This is not a vitola that I normally gravitate towards. You guys know me, I always smoke the Lanceros or the little Petite Coronas. So having the slightly larger ring gauge, but in a shorter offering is nice. It's a lengthy cigar. I mean, this is about hour, 15 minutes or so into it. So it's going to get you through. It's a nice lengthy stick, but it's just a different smoking experience, but it just has a lot of great flavors to it. I can definitely see why this cigar hit number one. Easy. And you know, the nice thing is the MSRP on this one is about $8.60. So under $10. It's a #1 rated cigar, and it's a #1 rated cigar that is different than other #1s that have been rated in that it's remained consistent since it's been given that title in 2008 all the way through today. So it hasn't changed. There's times when there are #1 cigars that come out, they're either limited editions or the blend, you smoke it from one year to the next and it's completely different. Not the case here. This one is the same smoking experience that if you smoked it in 2008, you're gonna smoke the same type of cigar again here in 2021. So it's hard to do that. It has to be done with the right team, the right amount of people that are making these quality cigars behind it each and every time. And it definitely shows through on this beautiful cigar offering by Quesada. So hopefully you've had a chance by now to try it. As I mentioned, it's been around for, for a number of years. And it's a cigar that has definitely earned a box or two in my humidor, and hopefully in yours as well. I'll definitely provide links for you so you can find it if you missed it by some chance and you haven't smoked it yet. It's definitely worthy of your time and your experience with it. So thanks so much for tuning in, and definitely check out their Instagram. You could check out Quesada Cigars, follow them, see what's going on. They have a beautiful website. You can find out more information about their cigars if you have an interest in learning a little bit more about the specific blends, where you can find the cigars near you, things like that. But thanks so much for tuning in, and I can't wait to see you next time. Cheers.